Um, well, first day, one guy I don't see here today is Ed Daniels, and I'd like to pass on our, heartfelt sympathies to the family. Ed's still in serious condition, and our thoughts are with him and the family, hoping for, a recovery, from the tragedy that he's going through. So wish him the best and the family, and hope for a speedy recovery, and hope to see him back here this fall. With that, today's first day, and there's so much excitement, obviously, the first day of practice. The guys, I thought, did a great job in the drill work that we had. You're always worried about the first day when you don't have all the equipment on, that it becomes one where guys are on the ground. You're worried about injuries, and I thought, the leadership, the understanding of how important it is to compete, even when you're not in a full equipment situation, really resonated for me today. I was really, really happy about the speed. I was really happy about the execution. Clearly, the weather conditions are different than what they worked out in. They didn't have pads on. They didn't have helmets on. So there's going to be an acclimatization period where, we're going to have to continue to condition our football team. But by and large, I was pleased with the competitiveness, the focus of the group in terms of how they went through each and every drill. So from a head coach's perspective, from 35,000 feet, it was a really good day. A lot of things to work on and clean up, obviously. Some things I've got to work with the coaches on in terms of, just the little details. But again, pretty good first day. So with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Coach. It looks like you guys are, really rotating a bunch of defensive backs at several different positions, but just one of the ones we noticed today, Sage Ryan at corner. Do you see that sticking, or do you see him moving back to safety? Just maybe talk about some of the guys you've moved around as you start fall camp today.
Yeah, we're cross-training him. We got a lot of work. Certainly he played corner for us last year, as you know. We wanted the entire spring to be safety, and now we're going to begin that cross-training. So we feel like he'll become, that one player that can play both positions for us.
Hey, Brian. Trey Green, the youngster, looks like a guy that's going to see the field at some point. What is this period like for him as far as, seeing what his flexibility is, and what do you think his impact might be this year?
Well, he certainly looks the part, right? Controls his body really well, has a great deal of confidence. He doesn't look out of place in any shape or form from a physical standpoint, but he's picked things up very well for a guy that has not played this game very long. It's coming to him, I don't want to say easy, but it has not been a very difficult transition for him. And that all bodes well for players that are in their first year. I don't want to stand here today on day one and, say, hey, he's going to play in the first year. But my experience has told me that guys that transition quickly with his kind of physical attributes, they tend to show real quick, and he certainly looks the part.
Hey there, it's Brett with AP. With the 105 roster limit rule coming on, could you just summarize what you think the practical effect of that will be, and whether you could envision scholarships for all of those?
Well, I've had many discussions with my recruiting personnel, my GM, about that in itself, because, you're still then dealing with revenue sharing for 105. So I think we have to look at, how that impacts the entire roster. So I think we're looking at all possibilities. Where I think it impacts us the most is what does your recruiting look like if you have to go to 105 for 2025? It means maybe you have to sign another 15 or 20 more players, and that's where it gets a little bit risky, right? I mean, we've been recruiting this 2025 class for quite some time. Do you all of a sudden start throwing out 30 more scholarship offers? I don't know that I'm comfortable doing that at this point, right? Because we've evaluated a lot of players and haven't offered scholarships to a number of players. So we have to be very, very intentional in how we do this. So the long answer to your question is we haven't made a decision, but to sit here at 85, there's going to be a lot of schools in the SEC that are going to go to 105. So we have to be competitive as well. So we're gonna have all, I would say, options vetted and be ready to move strategically when and if it gets to that final ruling by the courts.
Coach, right here. Kyron Lacey made a couple nice catches today.
Yeah.
How much have you seen him grow since you've had him on campus, and how ready do you feel he is to take over as that number one receiver?
Well, I think most of his growth has been by virtue of him being the guy, if you will, now, right? I mean, Neighbors is gone. Brian Thomas is gone. He is the veteran player. So sometimes that happens with attrition, with guys moving on. And, I would say that he has embraced that. Some guys don't embrace it. They just continue to be who they are. He's embraced that and wants to be that next great wide receiver at LSU. We have such a great tradition, and so he wants to live up to that standard. And so I've seen a great deal of growth since our winter workouts began, and then spring ball, and then the last 7 weeks in the summer workouts, and then today. So it's been fun to watch that maturation.
Hey, Coach, PJ Woodland looked pretty impressive out there. How important is it for these young guys to step up?
Man, you guys make a lot of evaluations. I could be over with my job. I could go home early. Just take all your notes. So start PJ. Tradez, we want to start him at tight end. Who else did we have? Oh, you got perfect. Look, I think we're at a point in day one where, it's truly about the consistency of performance. And we like PJ, and we love his competitiveness. But if you remember, he made a great play, and then the next play, we threw the ball over his head, if you remember that. With young players, we're looking for consistency. And he has got a huge upside, and he's going to be a really good player in the SEC. But in the SEC, you make one play, they're coming right back at you, and they're going to test you. So we've got to test the mettle of our young players, and we've got to see consistency of performance. And it'll be about his consistency or Ashton Stamps' consistency or Sage or whoever we roll out there. And that's kind of what we'll be looking for with a lot of our younger players. It'll be Tradez Green, too. Like, will Tradez come back and be able to double down on another really good performance? And so across the board, especially with the younger players, can they be a Will Campbell, right? Who every day when he was a freshman, you knew what you were going to get. He was going to bite down on his mouth guard, and he was going to give you a consistent performance every day.
Coach over here. Brian, you talked about the offensive line being a strong point in the spring. Can you talk about, is it a seamless transition for DJ and Cohen at center? And secondly, having four of those starter five probably leaving after this year, how important to get backup depth on the O-line in this camp?
Oh, there's no question that second unit becomes invaluable. Now, we're going to have some continuity at the center position, but certainly that second unit now trying to gain some continuity, at that group, that's going to be, key for us going into next year. But I'll be honest with you, our focus is really getting that center position solidified. Seamless transition in that there's four guys. That's the seamless transition. Because they can really prop up that center position because he's got two guards with him that are going to be able to pick up any issues that he may have in terms of communication. And so that's really our focus, and staying in the present is really getting that center position locked down for us.
Hey, Brian. Questions about two of your corners. What are y'all allowing JV and Toviano to do right now? Because it seemed like he was at practice.
Yeah.
And then how close is Zy Alexander to being full go?
Javion's been reinstated by the university. As you know, he was suspended from the university, and he was reinstated on Thursday. And so he's back in football activities, and we'll kind of get him, going again, back in the mix. And obviously he'll be a competitive player for us. He played for us last year, and get him going as he works through, his legal matters. The second part of the question was? How close is Alexander? Yeah. He's been cleared for everything. But I think it's similar to John Emery, right? I mean, John's cleared for everything. But when you have a knee, you need to experience some things like getting tripped up in the hole or cutting off of it and feeling the scar tissue and going, oh my goodness, that's what that feels like. So I think Alexander's got to go through, planting and cutting and feeling that. And so he's full go, but he's in that process of getting back into football activities, and that sometimes takes some time before you feel real comfortable.
Brian, you answered the question about John Emery a little bit. My question was, he seemed to get a lot of plays early on.
Yeah.
Everything. What were your impressions of him? And not having a spring, your impressions, and also was he kind of on a pitch count today?
Yeah, so, talking to Frank, we wanted to do two things. One, we wanted to put John in a position where the reps mattered, and mattered in the sense of he had to cut. He had to be stressed. He's cleared. So we wanted every rep that he got to be, maybe this is a bad analogy, but a high leverage rep, if you will. We didn't want him out there, just blocking or, taking a rep that didn't force him to put his foot in the ground and accelerate. Whereas on the other hand, we wanted Josh Williams to have some low leverage reps because we know what we're going to get from that young man. So they're really on a different kind of trajectory in terms of going through camp. Josh, we're going to be very careful with. We're going to get him to Saturdays because we know what we're going to get there. Emery, we want to really stress him in a sense of making sure he feels great with that knee, because if he feels great, he's fearless and he's going to go. So that will be kind of the plan with both those guys going through camp. And then, let the two younger players and Durham and Jackson, let those guys go after it and pick up the rest of the reps.
Yeah, Brian, right here in the front. You've done this for more than 30 years as a head coach. What still excites you about the first day of practice, or the first few days of practice? Does it change from year to year or from team to team?
Oh, absolutely. I think the work that you do in the off season and all the preparation and to watch your process take place over a period of time is what excites me. It's the development of your team and what they look like and how they handle themselves. I've told this story many times. My first camp in year one, I had guys taking their helmets off and throwing them at each other. It was total bedlam. And now we're at that point where, they don't take their helmets off even, they know they're not supposed to take their helmets off for water breaks. And so it's just that development of your team to the eye that you have and what for your team. And then having like a guy like Matty Mock come up to you and say, Coach, that was impressive for day one in terms of the way your guys looked. I was really impressed. And that's, he's being honest with you. He's not going to blow smoke. And so, just seeing the development of your team is kind of what's exciting more than anything else.
Hey, Coach, early in the practice, looks like Shelton Sampson high-pointed the ball, made a nice catch, and got off to a good start, at least first practice. Just your thoughts on him and that play and what he can do. Yeah,
I think that's what we're looking for from him, right? His ability to go up and get the football and compete for it. He was not a 50-50 guy last year. He was a 20-80 guy. He lost 80% of those. I believe he's a 50-50 guy. He can go and get those balls. Unfortunately, he hit his head when he came down, and they wanted to be cautious that he didn't have a head injury. He was a little bit lightheaded. I was lightheaded out there today. So we hope that it's not anything serious and that he's able to bounce back tomorrow.
Hey, Brian, for Ricky and AJ, what is this fall camp about most for them?
It's a layered question, right? We could go on, a long time on the quarterback position, but to be succinct in terms of what would make me happy would be doing the little things really, really well. You don't have to be spectacular. We have a really good offensive line. We have, I think, outstanding wide receivers, and we have complementary pieces. Do the little things well. And if you do that, you can win football games if you're called upon. You can't make the colossal mistakes. You've got to be able to do the little things uncommonly well. And if you do that, you're going to find yourself in a position to go in and help us win if called upon. Good? All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.